You do such a great job even in the cacao ceremonies that I've been part of to really help people through cacao really reclaim their power back. Why cacao is medicine? What is the power of cacao?
Cacao has been used for thousands of years by the Mayan peoples. People call it heart medicine because you can literally feel yourself, your heart blossoming open when you give yourself the opportunity to sit with the cacao in ceremony. It's deep heart medicine. It even has these heart health qualities and benefits that supports the circulation around the heart and the pumping of the heart. It's very supportive in connecting you with your inner child too.
Why is it that cacao is that gateway to really accessing our inner child?
Yeah, absolutely. And
hey loves, do me a quick favor and hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are tuning into this. It helps grow the show more than you know. Thank you so much again and enjoy. I want to start with because you have a very powerful story of your background. How did you come back to remembering your roots for you to now have a full circle moment teaching people to remember their roots?
I like to say that it kind of started with my dark night of the soul and being in the most toxic of relationships at the end of it and having kind of that bathroom floor moment where I was like on my knees and sobbing and just like, what am I doing? And knowing that I needed to change my life. And I did. I got up off the floor and I changed my life forever. And I dove into yoga practices, beautiful books, self-help books were supporting me. And then I manifested yoga teacher training.
Ooh.
So I was in Bali, of all places, doing yoga teacher training. That was my way into spirituality, which can be the way in for a lot of people because there is no trauma around that culture, right? It's outside of my culture. And so it was all love and light. And I was in that training in Bali, and I was introduced to Mayan cacao from Guatemala, and my ears perked up, and I was like, wait, what? You know, I'm from Guatemala. And I had been really disconnected from that part of myself because my father was from Guatemala and he had taken his life in 2009, the same month that I turned 22 years old. So it was incredibly traumatic.
Wow.
And I just thought I would never have an opportunity to connect with that part of myself, that side of myself. I really blocked that part of me. And so it was this beautiful realization that there was something positive from that side of myself. There's something beautiful. And I knew I needed to work with that medicine for my heart, for healing myself. But I also knew on another level that this was something big and that I was going to share this with the world and with people. And we were going to share cacao in a big way because everybody knows chocolate. We all know chocolate. Oh, it's all over the world, right? And this is a plant ally that is for everyone. And when we have it in its purity, also, it is that heart-opening medicine. It is that connector plant that supports us in reconnecting to our roots and reconnecting to all parts of ourselves. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you know, in what ways before that were you kind of just closed off to that part of your lineage? Because I feel like so often, you know, if we're either estranged from one parent or we suffer a loss, you know, sometimes it's so painful to kind of face those deeper, darker shadow parts of ourselves and our story. How was that process for you?
Yeah, so I always wanted to have a connection with my father. So he left when I was about 3 years old, was in and out of my life until about 18. And he went through a lot of depression, and he had become addicted to drugs, and he was really intellectual, an avid reader, beautiful writer. So there were aspects of him that I really loved and realized that I also had those gifts as well, right? I loved to read. My mother never read a book. Like, she wouldn't finish one book. That's not what she liked to do, or she didn't have that gift. So it was something I wanted and just didn't have the ability to do so. So I didn't have any connection to my Guatemalan side. I really only consider myself until learning about cacao, I considered myself Mexican American, right? Because my mother was first generation Mexican American. I grew up with my mother and my grandmother, who was from Mexico, from Juarez, Mexico, and my grandfather, who was from Pennsylvania, American man. And so I only really connected with that part of myself, and really on such a surface level. It wasn't also deeply rooted either. My grandmother was very Catholic, and that's a thing with our relatives. There's a lot of Catholicism, a lot of dogma, a lot of religion, and so they've been disconnected. A lot of our relatives have been disconnected to their indigenous roots and their understanding of all parts of themselves and their ancestors and things. So this is very new to even, my mother as well.
Yeah. Well, I feel like for people who are watching this and listening to this, and you do such a great job even on social and even in the cacao ceremonies that I've been part of, to really help people through cacao really reclaim their power back. Can you talk a little bit about that and why cacao is medicine? Why is that even something sacred? What is the power of cacao? I know it's inspired by Mayan wisdom. Take us through that whole journey.
Yeah.
All right, loves. I see you. 98% of you watching right now are not subscribed, and that's totally cool, and I so appreciate it. But if you're enjoying this episode, if this is dropping valuable content for you, then why not join our fam? By subscribing, you'll never miss a beat, especially on the amazing tips, advice, and insights that we have on our incredible guests from around the world. Plus, you'll get a chance to win some incredible prizes. And it's absolutely free. It keeps us connected to everything that we're doing and helps us get even more and more incredible guests. And it would mean the world to me if you could just hit the subscribe button. And I promise to make you even more valuable content.
Cacao has been used for thousands of years by the Mayan peoples, by the Mexicas, and by the Olmecas before all of them, right? That was the mother civilization of our ancestors in Mesoamerica. And it was used in ceremony. It was used for everything really between life and death, but it was a sacred plant that was used for celebration, for shamanic purposes, for all beautiful things. It was even used as currency at one point for the Maya people. So it's this beautiful heart medicine. People call it heart medicine because you can literally feel yourself, your heart blossoming open when you give yourself the opportunity to sit with the cacao in ceremony, right? Create a ritual, just really, truly have intention and be present with the medicine. And also people drink the cacao and they use it to support them in their creativity. And, it's in the offices as well. It's in work environments as well. It's nice to at least set the intention of having that medicine support you in your creativity and your work and your beautiful creations. But it's deep heart medicine. It even has these heart health qualities and benefits that supports the circulation around the heart and the pumping of the heart. So there's so many beautiful properties within it that make it a superfood as well as that spiritual aid. So there's anandamide, which is the bliss molecule. There's theobromine that gently energizes, which is similar to that of like green tea. But it's not as intense on the nervous system as caffeine, right? It doesn't have as much caffeine. There's magnesium. It's a powerhouse in antioxidants. And with magnesium, we're really deficient in the Western world. So this supports our muscles, relaxing our muscles. It also feeds our brains. It's filled with PEAs, MAOs that supports our dopamine and our serotonin levels.
So that's why you get that like bliss feeling.
Yeah, that euphoric.
Euphoric feeling.
Yeah, and why people also call it an aphrodisiac. It's like it's getting the blood flowing. You're feeling heart opening, euphoric, right? It's very sensual. It allows you to be in your senses and like fully be here. It's embodiment medicine. You're like fully able to be present with yourself and like your feelings as well. So sometimes when people drink the cacao, right, tears will come and you don't even need to know why, and you won't always know why, but it's beautiful to support you in releasing like feelings, and sometimes you'll sweat, and that's also a beautiful support in letting go, right? Sometimes you'll giggle. It's very supportive in connecting you with your inner child too, right? So my first book, A Child of Magic, which I don't have here, that was written with the ritual of drinking cacao every time I sat down to write it. It was like a channeled book, which was so much fun to do. So it's this beautiful, all-encompassing plant medicine that is also gentle, yet incredibly profound. So we know many plant allies that are kind of intense and kind of can push us through the door of transformation and be overwhelming to our nervous system, whereas cacao is that medicine that kind of gently guides us to the door of transformation.
Right. And so if you are... Plant medicine is obviously having a day lately, and everyone is kind of, on the track for what plant medicine is good for their soul and their nervous system. how would you put in a category cacao, psilocybin, and wachuma, ayahuasca? Where does cacao sit on the spectrum? Obviously, cacao is legal, so we can start there.
Exactly. So it's the most gentle of all of the plant medicines that you just named. It's the most gentle on the nervous system, and it's still that consciousness shifting, but it isn't psychedelic like the others. So you're not going to see things, you're going to have a more inner experience and feel things. And it's almost even like before you have, let's say, a microdose of psilocybin, that feeling, that opening right before, that's something, that's a similar feeling that you get to when you are on cacao. And then you can feel like a bit of a high for sure. But again, you're not going to trip out or anything like that. You can drink it, you can drive, you will have the best drive of your life if you're going cross country or something, or just driving to work or whatever. I always have the best singing sessions when I have a cup of cacao before I drive.
So let's get into your book, because you dropped so much wisdom here. This just came out, and also from Hay House.
Yes.
So we are Hay House bestie authors. So remember your roots, how to awaken your ancestral power and live with gratitude. So first, even with the cover, and I feel like just looking at this book kind of screams wisdom, and let's get back into our lineage. You have a picture of a tree, and I feel like for me, even trees have been so symbolic of let's go back and let's learn. I've actually been in this era recently of, all right, going back to even some of the scriptures that I grew up with from my dad, or even my mom was Catholic, but the roots of Catholicism from the Philippines, why was it so present there? And really just kind of like going in the rabbit hole of, yes, they were conquered by Spain for 300 years, but like really going into that. And I know you speak a lot about colonization. So let's get into it. Yeah. Why and how can somebody really hold value in reclaiming their power by reading this book?
So the book is that support of rooting, of grounding you, and that's going to support you in coming into your power, right? So we are so much like the trees, right? So we have our root systems, and just like the trees' roots, right? It's interconnected to everything underneath the earth, right? It's interconnected to the mycelium network and to the entire ecosystem around it. And it is in a state of reciprocity, of gratitude, of giving and receiving constantly. So it's receiving and giving nourishment and nutrients to other trees in need. And so it's in this beautiful state of giving and receiving. And when we're in that state, right, when we know that we're interconnected to all that is, right, we can also rise up like the tree, right? Our branches glowing and growing towards the heavens, and also just in our authentic expression. So we're so much like the tree. And the book walks you through 13 chapters, which 13 in the Mayan, to the Mayans, it symbolizes, and this is 13 here actually. It symbolizes completion. It symbolizes wholeness, oneness, connection to the ancestors. It's the most magical number. And it's also a very magical number to many indigenous cultures.
Wow, it's interesting that 13 is such a magical number for the indigenous cultures. Yeah. And then here we have like Friday the 13th. Is there a correlation or a connection there?
Well, so, I mean, that's a made-up myth, and it's very common where things that are sacred, just like the number 13 is a sacred number, they're twisted and distorted to seem as if they're evil or bad, which then internalizes that you're bad. These practices that your ancestors did are bad. So let's not do that. Let's do this over here, So the book begins with, it starts with the body, right? And then we go into the mind, we go into connection with the soul, into relationships, ancestors and elementals, connection with the earth, ceremony, the importance of ceremony and how supportive that is, and how we need more ceremony. We need more community gatherings. Like, we're meant to heal together, right? So essential.
Well, let's double click on that, because you are the queen of holding powerful ceremony. And in your ceremony, it's powerful. Take us through that, because there's dance, there's wisdom, there's indigenous, there's singing, there's cacao, which for me is the best part. And so, but take us through that. And can anybody create ceremony? What does it actually mean to have ceremony?
Yeah. So ceremony is a sacred space in which you can create, right? I mean, life can be a ceremony if you set that intention and you treat life as sacred. So yes, absolutely, we can all create a ceremony. For me, I like to call my cacao ceremonies the Matiosh method. Matiosh means thank you in Mayan, and it's a deep felt gratitude and thank you from the heart of your heart and to the heart of other things. So it's this beautiful gratitude method, and the way it begins is we drink Mayan cacao. And even before that, the ceremony begins with the intention you're setting, the environment you're creating a safe space and sacred container for the ceremony. So what that can look like is burning of sacred herbs. And, for me, I'll use different types of herbs, but I like to recommend people to get herbs that are local to them, that are sustainable in their area.
What are some typical herbs that people start with?
So I would recommend, I love rosemary. Rosemary is a beautiful one, a very cleansing, purifying herb. Sage. Sage is also very common here, and it's grown. I had it in my backyard here in Topanga. So there's lots of sage here. But again, you want to make sure it's like a thriving bush, because there are others that there's taken a lot from. Mm-hmm. But what others? Lavender, even lavender, sweetgrass. There's so many. So looking it up and seeing what is in your area. And so setting the space, playing beautiful music, right? If you have sound bowls, play some sound bowls, or play just beautiful healing meditation music in the background as you create and make your cacao. And the reason you love my cacao is because I always add natural sweetener, right? And that's the thing. The natural taste of cacao is quite bitter, which bitterness is really good for us. So when we add the natural sweetener, then it kind of tastes like a delicious cup of hot chocolate. And I add, cinnamon and other spices, but you keep it pretty simple for a ceremony. But I have other recipes, and I will give you guys a free guide and recipe at the end.
Oh, yes.
And then after that, right, we get meditation in, we journey with the plant, and then we have movement, which supports us in integrating everything that we've learned, integrating maybe the visions that come through or the wisdom that comes through with the tree, with the cacao tree, and the medicine. So yeah, it's a whole beautiful thing of Mayan cacao, meditation, and movement.
Wow. And what do you think readers can really take away, or what is your vision for how you would like readers to go through this book in remembering their roots?
I mean, you can go through it and just open the book to see what comes through, because there's so much wisdom within this book. It is jam-packed with Mayan teachings and wisdom from my elders, ancestral channeled wisdom as well, and then also my story. But even still, at the end of each chapter, you have embodiment practices that are super supportive. So if you feel like you're really wanting to connect to the body, then begin there so that you can do the embodiment practice with the body, or the inner child. There's a chapter on the inner child. You can go to that, and we kind of get to that towards the end, and the magic, and really like cultivating the magic of your inner child and who you are. And so that's in there too. So you can go through it like that. If you want to connect with the ancestors, that's like the 4th chapter. If you want to skip to the end and go straight to the divine and remember that you are literally this beautiful magical embodiment of the divine, then go there. So it's however it feels resonant for you, for sure.
I want to double click on really the first part of the book, where you talk about your body, and your body is a good place to be. Let's talk about that, because I feel like so often we judge ourselves, we wish differently, or we are the biggest self-critic about ourselves and the stories that we tell ourselves. And many times it could be from our lineage, or, we sit in the victim role, or victim spiral, I like to call it. Take us through this chapter.
Yeah, so, we hold so much in the body, first of all. So there's a lot to feel into. It has its own intelligence. There's a lot to feel and to acknowledge and to recognize. So it's important to sit with the body, see how it feels. And also, the body is the most beautiful place you can be, because it's where you are, right? This is the one body that you will have in this lifetime. You can't change it out for another. And the through line through every chapter really is coming to gratitude, right? It is that thread that we can follow, and no matter all of the things that we get to work through and the generational trauma we get to move through, we get to be grateful to have these bodies, to have the ability to move, right? To sing, to dance, to express. And so that's the through line. Gratitude.
I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And now let's get into inner child.
Yeah.
Why is it that cacao is that gateway to really accessing our inner child? And what gets blocked as we kind of go through life and go through obstacles and challenges and setbacks and breakups and life, sometimes life's and it's lifing. And so we kind of get away from like the things that give us joy. How do those pieces come together?
So yeah, through the human experience, right, we forget how magical we are. But when we tap into the inner child, we remember that we used to be connected to that magic. We used to live authentically and just be ourselves. We weren't comparing ourselves or trying to be anything other than what we were. We were really tapped in, and we knew who we were in many ways. And with cacao, the beautiful thing about cacao is it supports you in remembering that magic. It does something of coming back. Like I mentioned, it's that connector, connects you to the ancestors. It connects you to like all parts of the self. Like I mentioned, it can also bring up tears and things. So you're going to connect to possible shadows as well. That may come up. And also, yeah, just different parts, the inner child, the inner teen, these parts that have been forgotten. It's almost like, in essence, a soul retrieval, like coming back to all parts, coming back to the soul and feeling that love for all parts of the self as being that heart medicine. And it's almost hard to put into words, but it is that plant that if you sit with it, you can start to feel it. And the more you work with it, the more you understand that, you know.
Wow. And what I'm hearing is you can take this book and this can be a guiding tool
100%.
For you to start your healing and transformational journey.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's lovely to remember that it doesn't have to be all hard. So that is a really fun chapter. And to tap into the inner child initially was actually my path and my way. I really went deep into the inner child connection, and it was very playful and very fun because of cacao, because it did that thing. It tapped me back into that part of myself that knew that I was magical, that remembered that I used to have wings, that I used to have this imagination where I would just make things real. I knew that I loved to write, I loved to dance, I loved to sing, and I was able to just fly into that and just do all of that and be in that. And cacao helped me and held me through like that process, which was really, really sweet. So I didn't go into it necessarily with a lot of shadow work in the beginning. It was like I almost took a step and over that, and then played in this realm. And then it was a nice and gentle path into the deeper and the shadow work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have something like a tool that you can share with us that for anybody who's watching this on YouTube right now or that is inspired, maybe they're driving and they're listening to this, maybe they'll rewatch it later, that you can get us into that kind of heart space of honoring our inner child?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you can and you're watching this, maybe just closing your eyes, you can place a hand on your heart. And I want you to just imagine your inner child in front of you in this moment. Taking a deep breath, just breathing here for a moment. And ask your inner child, how does she or he feel? How do they feel? And ask the question 3 times, because it's usually after the third that you get the true answer. So maybe they need a hug, or they need acknowledgement. They need to maybe know that they're safe, that they're loved, they're accepted. Maybe they need some ice cream, or to watch a Disney movie, or to put on a sing-along song. Just tuning into what they need and how they feel. And if you can, then wrapping your arms around yourself, giving and receiving your own love. Breathing into this hug. Making the vow to give your inner child what they asked for when you can today, at some point in the day. And then kissing your shoulders. Yeah. Yeah, it feels so good to hold ourselves, and we don't often do that. And I'd like to invite everyone to go and hug a tree today. And the beautiful thing about hugging a tree is you actually release oxytocin after 20 seconds of hugging a tree. So it's just like hugging a beloved or an animal that you love. Yeah, it's so special.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you can release it with a tree as well.
Yeah.
And then you, of course, get the negative ion, the grounding benefits of the tree and being connected to the earth.
Yeah, exactly. So take your shoes off and then hug the tree.
Okay, well, there you go. I just want to reflect back. For me, what came up was little Neeta was like, all right, she needs to play and dance and go to the beach. And so I'm like, okay,
yes, perfect.
I'm here in LA. I'm going to do just that. I'm going to do just that.
Yay.
And so Rave Table Fam, when we do these types of practices, I think it's so important to have that intentionality of having that time for you and that time of connection. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I feel like there's more of these connection practices.
Oh, yeah.
This is just one, but more of these connection practices in the book.
Oh yeah, there's that's like, the sweet, the light, and there's also rage rituals in there that'll support you and feeling your anger, your sadness, your grief, and releasing that in a really healthy and safe and beautiful way, and also alchemizing that energy and coming into gratitude. So, and also, you can also connect with your inner child with my children's books too, by the way.
Oh my goodness.
I should probably mention that. We have it right here.
Yes.
And I have, actually, this is a 5-part series for Lana Olivia, which is an adapted version from my first book, A Child of Magic, which was like a YA book for the inner child. If you want to create ceremony, it's beautiful for that too. So, but yeah, these are so sweet and they're really
beautiful.
fun. And if you're on the YouTube, you can see like the pictures are just like so magical.
Oh my goodness. I love the photos.
Yeah. And it's like a Latina Disney character. We don't
know.
have one.
I know.
So I just made one. I was like,
oh, you made that one.
Oh yeah. I mean, I made this. This is
my
my
gosh.
book, my illustration. So
it's your illustrations. Okay.
The whole thing is created. Of course, the illustrations are supported by AI because I'm not that good of an artist, but
no, it's brilliant. It's fascinating. What's the storyline of Lana?
So Lana remembering her magic, and nature is reminding her through different teachings. The elementals are reminding her through here. And yeah, I wanted to see the visualization, so I created it myself because I couldn't wait any longer. I tried to get this published. So these are all self-published by me, whereas that's different. That's super thankful for Hay House for publishing the nonfiction for sure.
Amazing. And where can we get the kids' books?
They're on Barnes and Nobles. They're also on Amazon, and same with Remember Your Roots on Amazon. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna have to link everything in the show notes to get Remember Your Roots and
The Magic Within.
The Magic Within.
Yeah. The kids' books are really fun. There's also ones on dreams, which a lot of the kids love because they wonder why we dream. Mm-hmm. So that's a super fun one. It's called The Bridge of Dreams. There's one on gratitude to teach children, the importance of gratitude and the power of gratitude. There's one on belonging and knowing that you belong to so much more than just what you can see. So, yeah, they're deep and simple too.
Well, and I am curious as to, because you are such a creative essence. I feel like when you walk into a room, you're just the creatrix.
Oh.
And for anybody who is like stuck in their creativity or is like, I want to have more creativity in my life, would you say that kind of cacao, or what was one of the factors that helped you unlock your full creative expression? Because you've written a whole series of children's books. You've created a cacao company. You've written this powerful book with one of the top publishers. So what do you owe this magic that you are just able to get into this full expression?
Yeah, I would definitely give credit to cacao, as well as connection to the ancestors, because it's through the connection of the ancestors that I kind of realized my gifts as well. And the gifts that I have, like I mentioned before, are gifts that were passed down from my father, the gifts that were passed down from other ancestors as well. So it's both for sure.
And how do you feel that for people who maybe struggle with connecting back with their ancestors, and this is the first time they're leaning into maybe their spiritual practice, or they've done some talk therapy, some coaching, but this is really that essence of kind of coming back to their own divinity? What types of tools or exercises? Is it a prayer? Is it sitting with cacao? Is it creating ceremony? Is it journaling? What practices would you first recommend for anybody that's wanting to kind of call upon their ancestors? Do they need psychedelics?
They don't need anything. No, not at all. The easiest thing and the most powerful way is to go out into nature and just set the intention of connecting, right? And there's so many ways in which we can do this and connect. But there's also so many ancestors we can connect with. So it's making the intention to connect with the unconditionally loving ancestors, the wise and the well ancestors. So speaking to that, right? Because we can connect with so many ancestors. And like we mentioned, it can be, I guess, confusing onto who are we wanting to connect with exactly, right? So setting that intention. There's other beautiful ways. Yeah, you can write letters to the ancestors. You can journal if that's what you'd like to do. You can play maybe music that you think your ancestors resonated with, right? The drums. All of our ancestors, our ancient ancestors, work with the medicine of the drum, right? They work with the intelligence of the plants as well. So connecting with your ancestral plant allies, and if you don't know what that is, like doing the research to find out what plants and herbs your ancestors worked with. And especially, of course, with the cacao as well, it's that connector that supports, and it's a profound one. It's a potent medicine that'll support that. So I would say all of the above, really, honestly, because when you're working with nourishing plants and your ancestral plants, you may not find the consciousness shifting plants, but even just with working with the beautiful herbs like lavender or nettles or oat straw or dandelion, these things. Over time, it's very gentle, and that's a subtle shift and connection. But over time, you'll start to feel it more and more. Yeah.
It's so potent when you start to make the shift.
Yeah.
And begin, even if it's just one thing today. Today you're going to go hug a tree.
Yeah.
You're going to sit with a tree. You're going to hug the tree. Tomorrow maybe you'll go and get some cacao and you'll make a cup of cacao and just sit with that. And what I'm hearing, your through line is, even in your book, your through line is, kind of this practice of gratitude. And I know that on the Hawkins consciousness scale, any of the emotions that are below the anger, the frustration, the resentment, we can't create that field in which we want to manifest, right? Everything is created from love or above. And gratitude and appreciation and awe is at the very, very top of that, of course, with joy. Yeah. And so it seems like every single chapter in this through line is, how can we give more thanks? How can we give more appreciation? How can we tune into, even if we're going through some dark moments, tune into our own gifts of, okay, I'm so grateful that I was able to watch this today and have reverence for myself in this process. So thank you for being such an advocate of helping us, remember where we came from and to not be ashamed of it, but to really own it. And I feel like you do this so well online and in your full creative expression. And as we get into our final igniting round, what does it mean to be brave?
What does it mean to be brave? So many things. It means to be, I feel, a legacy holder. It means to be courageous. I think it means to shine in your light and your authenticity. That's what I would say. And can I say, I love what you just said about gratitude. And I want to mention that gratitude is also brave, I would say. And it is that beautiful expression of love. I believe it is the highest expression of love because it's that giving and receiving of love, right? Because you can feel and give gratitude at the same time and feel that love. So yeah, it's so beautiful. Gratitude is such a special thing and a thread that we can always hold on no matter what we are challenged with, right? We will come up to challenges through this lifetime, but we can always hold on to the thread of gratitude, because even through the challenges, we can learn, right? We can grow and evolve. So, there's so much to be grateful for.
You are such an old soul in a beautiful inside and out embodiment of who you are. And I'm so glad everyone gets to learn from you. And finally this book is out. So everyone get this book, Remember Your Roots. I feel like it's one of those that, if you've got your spiritual witches, your besties, or those that you want to connect deeper with, I always talk about your soul support posse. Get 3 of your friends, get this book. This is kind of one of those things where you can create a weekly circle, a weekly women's circle, where you can rage it out, scream it out, dance it out, shake it out, twerk it out, and have some cacao on the side. And so you can get this wherever books are sold. I will link it below in the show notes, and definitely follow Christine Olivia. She's Christine Olivia on Instagram, because she's giving life.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, love.
Thank you, sis. Thank you, Matios, everyone.
Matios.
Yes.
Welcome back to the other side. This was such a juicy and potent conversation. And it's one that helps us get back into a full remembrance of who we are, full remembrance of our inner child. So maybe this is a reminder for you to go and do what makes you come alive. Maybe set some time to create whatever your routine is, your ritual, and getting back to whatever that sacred practice that is for you, whether it's making chai, maybe it's making cacao, maybe it's just sitting in ceremony with tea, pouring yourself a cup of tea while, sharing your intentions, or maybe even just expressing gratitude of, wow, thank you so much for everything that has guided me up into this point, and maybe even thanking yourself for spending time with us today, whether you're watching this on YouTube or even listening to this on your drive home. I hope this episode has given you peace and a remembrance and an acknowledgement that you are here for your greatest gifts to shine out into the world, whatever that may look like. And I'm so glad. If you loved Christine, go ahead and follow her. She is Christine Olivia on Instagram. I will link her link in the show notes, as well as her Amazon book link. If you are a mama or an auntie or an uncle, somebody that wants to get her incredible children's books for the kiddies in your life, go ahead, and I will connect that on all of the show notes as well as IamChristineOlivia.com. You can go ahead and follow all of her offerings there, where she is doing other live cacao ceremonies and so much more. She is also on YouTube. I will link that in the show notes. And if you're curious on how to, maybe you're just starting out your spiritual practice, maybe the witchy side of you is coming out, or your more expression side is coming out, I will link 3 additional episodes in the show notes for you to perhaps sit with ceremony and attract the person who you are becoming in your spiritual and healing and transformation journey. With all that said, thank you so much for tuning in. It really warms my heart that this community is growing and growing so much more than you know. And all you have to do is click the subscribe button or follow us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are listening to this and consuming this. It really helps us grow the show more than you know, and gets us into the hands of more brave humans. And if you haven't already dropped a comment below, we would love that, or tag whatever you loved about this episode on the Brave Table or at Neeta Bhushan on Instagram. We so love your feedback. Thank you so much. And don't forget to be just a little bit more brave.